We're really late. We're like 20 minutes. Hello, Facebook. Hello, Facebook. Welcome to the African Alumni Association. Are we ready?
Yes, they think they are.
Are we ready? Okay. Hello, Facebook. Welcome to the African Alumni Association. My name is Henry Sally. Hello, Facebook. Welcome to the African Alumni Association. And this is your other mental health series. How do you manage heart in a course of duty? We have a couple of panelists. We do have Noreen Sibanda, who is based in Edmonton. We do have Pastor Jumba, who is based here in Toronto. We do have Newton Butela, who is based in Kampala, and we do have our very own, the host of this session, Catherine Bate. Without any further ado, I am going to start the conversation, and then I'll let Kathy carry on. But before I start, I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the land that we are hosting this conversation on. The First Nations land. So I'm gonna read it out because I don't have it in my head. I should have it in my head. I don't yet have it in my head. But with that said, we wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto African Alumni Association operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Today, this meeting place is still the home of many Indigenous people from across the Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. Thank you so much to the Indigenous people for giving us this opportunity to work on this land. Before I leave this conversation to Kate to take advantage of and host, I'm going to introduce at least one, our newest panelist. Our newest panelist is Noreen Sibanda. Noreen is a registered provisional psychologist in Alberta, and as in Alberta that prides herself in taking biological, psychological, and social psychosocial approach, and values each client's worldview and experiences. She is not afraid to walk along with each client's uncharted territories at their pace by employing solution-focused approach, which amplifies your resilience and inner strength. She has a passion for working with individuals, transitioning couples and families. Some of our other notable work includes working on youth participatory research projects with the University of Toronto, with the University of Alberta. That's a bias. With the University of Alberta Community University Partnerships, coordinating summer youth programs, working to settle newcomers and immigrants, and more recently focusing on bringing awareness to mental health and marginalized individuals. Her passion to destigmatize and increase access to mental health services has led her to work within schools and in the community-based organization offering counseling services at a sliding scale to eliminate barriers. After years of working with the system, she recognized the need to have allies and network of Black therapists. This led to the creation of the Alberta Black Therapists Network, The Alberta Black Therapist Network is a group of licensed and regulated professionals working in the field of mental health and addictions that aim to normalize experiences, destigmatize accessing therapy within the Black community, and reduce barriers and inequalities experienced by Black and ethnic communities. Noreen holds a Master's of Arts in Counseling Psychology. We are delighted to have you, Noreen. And with that, I'm gonna let Catherine take over. But before I leave, I wanna share a video from Pastor, which I think is going to guide our conversation today. It's already late. But first, let me share this video before I find the other video.
Hello everyone, I'm Sonia Sidirio, Federal Member Parliament from Brampton South. I would like to extend my best wishes to the University of Toronto's African Alumni Association Mental Health Series. I applaud you for finding creative ways to connect with one another as we get used to our new norm and fight COVID-19. For many, the pandemic is having a major impact on their everyday lives, affecting mental and physical well-being. We also know that racialized Canadians have been hit harder with the virus entirely. In Brampton, we are blessed by our diversity, as it creates stronger and more vibrant communities. I have the pleasure of speaking to and working with community organizations and groups such as yourself, and I see the difference that can be made. With that being said, I thank you for discussing these important issues. As a member of Health Committee and having worked in the healthcare field for over 18 years, I recognize that we are stronger when we break through these stigmas. Why I'm blessed to be part of the government that emphasizes the importance of mental health for everyone who has struggles with mental health. Thank you for sharing your stories and for showing that being open is a strength. You are not alone. In response to COVID-19, our government announced an investment of millions to develop, expand, and launch virtual care and mental health tools to support Canadians. We made investment to support children through the Kids Helpline initiative and created the Wellness Together platform for Canadians to benefit from many online mental health resources. There will always be more to do. I have heard clearly from many residents and especially my youth council of over 60 young leaders in our community. We must continue working together to face these challenges. I encourage all of you to continue raising your voice and reflecting on our own self-care. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please don't write on the screen, because when you do that, it means that everyone out there is going to see what you have written. So if it's not relevant to the conversation, it's going to be hurtful. That being said, the video that is going to start our conversation is here. Great, where is it? I don't see your trailer. Can you see that or no?
It merely says you're sharing a screen, but nothing on the screen.
screen. That's weird. What's this thing?
Hi, Pamela. We just had another doctor jump and commit suicide. Hi, Pamela. We just had another doctor jump and commit suicide from Mount Sinai. This keeps happening, and they're just covering it up.
If we had this number of patients jumping from hospital rooftops, there would be an investigation. Why are we not taking this seriously when these are doctors and medical students?
We're going to be looking at two things: the posture of normal walk. Everybody understands that medical school is very demanding. Those demands have a profoundly toxic effect.
Doctors have felt that they need to start running faster, seeing more and more patients.
All of this pressure happens, and there's no margin for error.
Hear people who die. New roads. Your spirit.
Workload, isolation, sleep deprivation. It is a time bomb.
It really is almost like tunnel vision. The only way that I logically was thinking at that time was I
End it all.
end it all.
Break down in my room every day. I never wanted to die. I just wanted to stop suffering.
People believe in you because you are perfect. Death sometimes feels like a safer option than having that mask uncovered.
The medical profession has launched a campaign to reduce the high level of suicide among doctors.
This qualifies, in my view, as a pandemic.
The biggest risk is patient safety.
Medical errors are now the third largest cause of death behind heart disease and cancer.
If you have somebody that is not functional either mentally or physically, then you can't have good quality care.
I've seen a resident D in a surgery falls asleep standing up.
So my first question is, how come this story is not on the front pages of the papers every single day?
If a third of them are suffering from clinical depression.
Our son Kevin was a fourth-year medical student who took his life on April 23rd, 2015. I realize this has been a problem for decades and nothing's been done about it.
We're not ashamed. We're going to do anything we can to keep others from having to go through this, because I'm going to tell you, it's hard.
Cultures and institutions don't change because we ask them to change. They change when they're forced to change.
I've read the petition, and we're already doing what they're asking.
I think if you were to really take on physician suicide with the seriousness that it needs to be investigated, it would take our entire medical profession down to its knees, and we would have to rebuild from the bottom up.
Catherine, please take over.
All right, thank you so much, Henry. And welcome everyone. I'm so happy to be the host for today's session. And my name is Catherine Bate. And today's conversation is going to be about, have you been hurt in the course of helping, that is professionally or informally? So how do you carry on effectively? Before we proceed, I'm just going to ask our panelists, Mr. Eddie Jumba, Mr. Newton Butereva, and Noreen to reintroduce themselves briefly, just in a few minutes, because I believe that there's some people who don't know the people we're having today. Please, Mr. Jumba, can you go ahead and introduce yourself in just in a few minutes?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, thank you very much, Catherine and Mr. Sully, for continuing to host this. It's one thing to start something, but to continue is a different thing. So I thank you for both those things, the starting and continuing. My name is Eddie Jumba. I am the senior pastor of Dominion Church International Toronto. Something that is the most honorable thing that has ever happened to me. But when I'm not on the pulpit, I am a dad of 2 boys, 13 and 7, one wife. I'm a registered psychotherapist in Ontario. And I also have the privilege of working in the community on a volunteer basis based on appointment. So I thank you. It's a privilege to join, as I have learned so many things from these meetings. So I look forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Butelava, please. Can you unmute yourself, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. I would like to thank everyone who has made it to this very day. God is great all the time. Newton Butelava is my name. I'm in Kampala, Uganda. Right now, I run a company called House of Wealth. I'm into the business of helping people on their journey to make, grow, and keep money. I also lecture at Makerere University, which is the top university in the country. I lecture master's students doing information security and undergraduate students doing business. I have very many things I'm engaged in, like business endeavors, lending money, farming, buying and selling land, buying and selling houses, and construction. So these conversations have really helped me. I've learned a lot from these conversations, and I would like to thank the organizers, which include Henry and Kate, for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And Noreen, I know you're so new to this platform, but like, you know what, we don't take your presence for granted. Please, I know Henry introduced you, but like, we want people to hear from you.
For sure. So hi everyone, thank you for having me. I had the opportunity to listen into a few of the previous conversations that have taken place around mental health. And I think I'm in the right place to continue to have these conversations. So thank you for that. And as I've mentioned, my name is Noreen. I am based in the forever sunny Edmonton, Alberta, here in Canada. I am a registered provisional psychologist. I work with couples, children, families, and individuals. And when I'm not at work, you'll probably find me in the kitchen cooking something or baking. I also wear other hats as the executive director of the Alberta Black Therapists Network. And this is a group of regulated mental health and addictions professionals that are self-identifying as Black and recognizing that there's a need in the community for us to destigmatize mental health, but also access to services. And the number one reason why the Black community doesn't reach out for services, one is a lack of knowledge about it, but the second part is also a lack of representation. So going into an office and not seeing someone that looks like you, who doesn't have the same lived experiences. Hence the need of the Alberta Black Therapists Network, where you get to see someone that looks like you, shares a similar understanding, so you don't have to explain some of the things that can move along the relationship a little bit quicker. And we aim to create a safe space for the Black community to begin to have the conversations about mental wellness. So rather than illness, it is about how to maintain our mental health and recognizing that it is part of our overall health as well. So thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to this dialogue that's bound to be fruitful.
Thank you so much, Noreen. We appreciate your presence today. All right, okay, let's dig in. So today's conversation is sort of about like getting hurt when you're into the line of helping, that is professionally or informally. All our panelists, like when I hear your biography, like you all have different roles you play and different hats you wear. For Pastor Jumba, you were a pastor, you were a psychotherapist, and you were a dad. And for Mr. Newton Buteraba, you have a long line of hats you wear. You are into financial advising, you are a lecturer. And for you, Noreen, I hear your expertise way beyond. So having said all that, fields like that and the roles you play, you're gonna encounter so many things. You're gonna come across challenges. I know like the field of helping is not an easy one. The field of leadership is not an easy one. And I'll start my question with Mr. Buteraba. Okay, Mr. Buteraba, I'm gonna ask you directly from my questions. So getting hurt in the course of helping others may sometimes destroy relationships and mostly trust. Have you had that?
Yes, yes, yes.
So how does one carry on with helping others without affecting the existing relationships and potential future relationships? Do you want me to repeat that?
Yeah, you're saying how does one
carry on helping others without affecting the existing relationships and the potential future relationships?
All right, Kate, thank you very much. I look at different scenarios because human beings, we are social beings. It's like it was deliberate when God was creating us that we will need each other, we will bump into each other, we will interact with each other, and on the other side, we will hurt each other, we will mock each other, we will step on each other's toes. In my journey, I wouldn't think I haven't seen my journey as rich as Pastor Jumba or Noreen, because for them they're in the real thing of trying to counsel people, trying to help people. Now, usually the people who would go to them would be people who are emotional, and the people who would come to me would be people who are struggling probably with finances, and I try to counsel them in a way. But what I've realized is, and I'm going to speak for myself, I usually draw circles. For example, professionally, every time you want to get to Newton Buteraba, the me, you will have to pay for it. People who come to talk to me pay for it. People who hire me as an MC pay for it. People who hire me as a lecturer pay for it. People who hire me as a motivational speaker pay for it. So the way I control myself to be able not to be hurt by the people I interact with, and I usually joke about it. I usually tell people that if being hurt, if feeling pain is not going to pay for me, then I cannot be its employee. It's the reverse psychology I use. So I usually look on the list and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be annoyed someone did this or someone I'm working with did this, but are they paying for the pain? If they're not paying for the pain, then I don't take it on. I do not want to be employed where I don't have a contract and I do not know how much I'm going to earn. So I look at it that way, and I've programmed myself. But I think what has helped me the most is to understand what I learned from Edward Jenner. Edward Jenner was a British physician, and he introduced the world to vaccination. He realized that when you put a vaccine into someone, then all the future problems of that particular disease cannot hurt that person. So if you want to control probably malaria, you get a piece of malaria and you will put that piece of malaria into the person. So it means that when the mosquito brings malaria again, that person won't be struggling from malaria because the white blood cells have fought the piece that you put, the part of malaria that you injected him or you inoculated earlier. So I got to realize that when you are hurt before, you tend to grow a certain level of resilience towards all the future levels of being hurt, and it depends on the nature of hurting you went through. So having had I usually tell people I've had 2 heartbreaks. The first heartbreak was that in 2004 with I think it was with my ex-girlfriend, and the second heartbreak was to do with my clients I used to lend money. Now the clients I used to lend money took all the money. They couldn't pay. We had to go to court. And what really surprised me was the way they could answer in court. For example, they could say they didn't receive the money. And you see that is really heartbreaking when someone says, they ask him, do you know that man? And he says, I know that man. Did he give you money? He didn't give me money. Now, when you try to build that story of how you helped this person with the money, they were your client, they were borrowing. Now, face to face, in front of everyone, they're saying they did not get the money because their lawyer has advised them that if you say you did not get this, we will beat.
Giton, you're muted.
Sorry, I think I got a call and it interrupted me. But what I was saying is the level of heartache I got from court, it somehow gave me this level of resilience, which has made me, it made me feel like I'm vaccinated from any future hurt. Like I can no longer be surprised. I know I can lend money and someone says they did not receive the money. So to answer your question, Kate, where you say, how can I control the future? One is my level of expectation from people I interact with is so low. I have the least expectation from people. I do not put it on them that they have to over impress me. If they do not impress me, I'm like, that's what I expected. Yeah. If they impress me, I'm like, wow, they have gone beyond the expectation. But my expectation is really, really so low from people. That way, it's so hard to hurt me. It's so hard to surprise me. You can't come up with any surprises. And for now, I could say that that has helped me a lot, even in the future. Because I got so badly hurt in 2004 and so badly hurt in 2010. But from 2010 to 2020, amazingly, I haven't been hurt because I think I'm vaccinated. Thank you, Kate. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Beautiful said. But do you believe, like, for you, you have maybe the capability and mentality of being resilient after being hurt so bad? But do you believe like
Yes.
some people can really act otherwise and then be like vindictive or, towards like the people they serve just because they've been hurt before?
You rephrase the question. You're saying, do I think?
Yeah, do you think like other people would act like differently from how you act, like,
Yes. You see, what I realized is we have different I call them temperatures. We have different temperatures which enable us to react to being hurt. There are people who first of all, when they are hurt, they don't try to pick any lesson. For example, me, I picked lessons from the way I was hurt. I was like, this thing that can make me contemplate suicide has to be handled. I cannot go on like this. So what do? I need to learn from this. I created time for myself to learn from this. But there are people who choose not to learn, who choose to ignore that particular circumstance, such that they take life on anew.
That's true.
The new life they take, they're like, let me just take it on. So what happens is, I've realized life repeats the same exam. Life hands you the same exam you failed, I think, till you die. For example, if you're heartbroken in a relationship, if you do not learn, they will send you another heartbreak in a future relationship. Again, if you do not learn from that, they will keep sending you the same exam till you pass. So they do not promote you or elevate you. Life does not promote you or elevate you till you showcase to it that I learned, and having learned, I passed. So I think that's where Pastor Jumba and Noreen come in, that they bury the ignorance of all people who tend not to know that every circumstance that comes to them, they'll need to learn from it and act on it in the future. So I would understand if people have a very low temperature to handle being hurt, in which case they will be hurt again in the future.
Thank you so much, Newton. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Laurie, do you have anything to add on that? On that question?
Sure. I'll echo something that Newton touched on, is the ability to set boundaries.
Yes.
So he touched on this as circles. There's the professional, there's the personal, and setting those different boundaries allows you to navigate them much better. So you have an understanding of what it takes to get to Newton's professional circle. You know what it takes to get to the professional circle. And he started out by saying, it's not everyone gets to come in. Not everyone gets to have a say in how I internalize things. And part of that is through the life experience of learning certain things. I would like to bring on something a little different by saying compassion fatigue is real. I'll also like to say there is vicarious trauma that we get from going through those experiences. So as a professional, listening and helping someone puts you in a position where you have to understand where they're coming from. With that said, you're not just there to say, okay, go do this. You are really there to understand. And tying in the video that we were watching, those doctors are not just there because there's a paycheck at the end. They are there because there is actually a duty that they've signed on to. And the last thing on the video said, do no harm. And that stuck out for me because it tells the doctors to do no harm, but in the process, they are harming themselves and sacrificing themselves for the betterment of everyone else, right? So setting boundaries allows you to do that, to better manage how you handle yourself and how you respond to the demands and the needs that are out there in the world, because people that are receiving help will take. They don't have a limit on how much they will take. But as the person that's giving the help, you have to set a limit on how much you can give. And Newton needs a boundary. If you want me as your MC, if you want me as your financial advisor, right? So setting those boundaries and help navigate that we work in do not actually allow us to hold those boundaries. Because I've never had a doctor say, I'm done my shift, I'm going home. There's always a demand. There's always something else. Like I go into my office and I have an hour. Sometimes my sessions go over an hour and I'm constantly having to say, this is all the time that we have today, because I'm taking care of myself in the process of taking care of them as well. But I can't do that if I haven't actually set in place what it is that I can handle. And Newton is right. There's a part where there's a vaccine that becomes part of the process, where you get to go through those experiences and understand that you are going to burn out. If you do not tell people what your limits are, they're going to keep taking. That's going to burn you out. It's not going to burn them out. And putting yourself in that, you're taking away the time that you need to refuel you. We joke around in therapy that says, put on your mask before you put on someone else's mask. And as helpers, sometimes we forget to do that. We forget to put on the mask that takes care of us. If a doctor hasn't slept for 24 hours, what are the chances that whatever they're doing is actually going to be helpful? I'm not going to be present. There's times where I've actually said to work, I can't show up today, not because I'm not well, but I'm taking a health day for myself because I know it takes a lot from me to be present for other people. And by showing up, I'm going to do them a disservice. By showing up, I'm actually going to take away from them because I will rupture the relationship. I'm more likely to be on the edge. I'm more likely to say things that are not as professional, but also may not be conducive to their healing process because of how I'm feeling. So why would I put myself in that space? That's where you set the boundary that says, after 24 hours, I'm no longer doing work. What I'm doing is actually fulfilling an expectation that says I have to keep going rather than actually taking care of myself and also taking care of the people that I work with.
Thank you so much, Noreen. Oh, that has been beautiful saying. And Pastor Eddie, do you have anything to say as a spiritual man and a psychotherapist? What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, first to thank the previous speakers. So Mr. Buteraba and my dear sister Noreen, thank you so much for sharing that wisdom. Yeah, a lot of things you said definitely resonate with me. I would definitely do a quick hint on the video that we started with, which you referenced, Noreen. And that actually, yes, it's the last thing it says, do no harm, but it's also the first thing it says. Actually, that video, it's a full movie. It's a recent movie. And the title is Do No Harm. What this movie does is it highlights two realities of a helping professional. So Noreen and I are the classical helping professionals, but in that title, in that umbrella, but also that umbrella has, at least in my opinion, it has many other people. It has pastors. It has parents. Parents are helpers. Now, if you remove the word professionals, there are many categories of helpers. It is the reality in that, just as in that movie, that the job of helping is a very sensitive job. People are coming to you and they're being vulnerable with their stuff. It's a very serious thing. So there's a duty. That's why we talk about ethics in therapy or in the helping professional. There's very serious ethics, which if you break or violate, it will count against you in terms of your effectiveness as a helper. So when we talk about helping, we balance these two things. We have a duty to do no harm. And I feel confident in this. If I err, my sister will correct me there. I think the word is, I think it's beneficence. The duty, no, that's non-maleficence. Non-maleficence, the duty to do no harm. So it's not enough, Mr. Buteraba, to do good. But as a helper, you have a duty to do no harm. So it is very true that if we don't take care of our stuff, and I call it stuff because life brings a lot of stuff to us. If you don't take care of that stuff, you are going to welcome these people that are coming to you trusting that, you know what, if I go to Pastor Eddie, if I go to this therapist, if I go to this counselor, if I go to this, I might get help because I really need help. These people are going to come to you, and because you have a lot of stuff that you have not taken care of, you're going to definitely harm them more than you're going to help them. So this movie highlights those two, and it's very difficult to balance them, but we have a duty to balance I think of ourselves as wounded healers. There's a man, Henry Nouwen, he has had a big impact on me in terms of how I think of ministry, but he writes a book called Wounded Healers, and he really just documents the whole, so many incidences of the reality of the person who is helping, the reality that in their personal lives, they have also had places where they have been wounded. Now, if they don't do the hard work of taking care of themselves, they are going to harm the people they are attempting to help. So I cannot emphasize enough, Sister Catherine, to that question around the this question that you're posing. It is true. We're going to be hurt. And I'm surprised Mr. Buteraba did not quote a scripture today. I thought he was going to quote James. I thought he was going to quote James 1. I think I should post it there. When he talked about this reality of expect pain, or when he used the analogy of vaccination. In that analogy, it is true. Scripture says that when trials and temptations come, count it all joy. But it doesn't say receive it, that always send out invitations to receive hurt and harm. No, we got to have boundaries. But it says when they do come, because we live in the reality of imperfect people, and we are just as imperfect as we are ourselves, expect it to come. And when it comes, the Bible says, I just posted it there, James 1, verse 2 to 4. It says that consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you encounter trials of many kinds. But he says something important, which Newton is what he hinted on. He says, out of these trials comes perseverance. And when you persevere and you grow into this grounded adult who is aware that as I progress in the course of my work, I'm going to be presented with some really challenging situations, and I still have to carry on in an effective way. I guess we can talk about a few things, but I think that's what comes to mind as I think of that question, Catherine, and I know that you have many more questions, but I thank you.
Yeah, we have a long list of questions, but like we will do our best to see whether we can cover everything. Oh, well, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was really insightful, and I appreciate your responses. So I'll move on to the next question. And this will go straight to Noreen. Okay, Noreen, I'm going to ask you a quick question. If someone you have helped either at work or in your personal life treats you badly, how do you know that it's not their behavior that has led to such mistreatment? I'm asking you because I know you're a psychologist, like you have means to look into that. Yeah.
Well, I think a big part of that conversation is recognizing what role you play as the helper. So am I there to help someone achieve their goal, or am I there to help the person achieve their goal that then helps me achieve my goal? And I think those are two distinct ways of looking at it. So if I'm there to help them achieve their goal, then it is not attached to me. It doesn't come back to me whether they hurt me or not, because that is up to me to receive it as such. Because as long as what they come into the session for, they receive that, then that's where our relationship begins and ends. I don't have to have a relationship outside of that. And that's within my professional role. Definitely those boundaries are set and they're quite clear, right? So when someone is coming in and they receive what they want and they maybe give a not so pleasant review, I don't receive that as hurt. No, do I understand that as something that's taking away from me as a therapist? In fact, I see it as within that relationship, as Newton highlighted. In relationships, that's where the rapture happens. But it's also in relationships that's where the healing also takes place. So I look at it as if someone comes into my office and they get what they needed, and if what they do after that is something that I receive as hurting me on a personal level, then again, it goes back to what Pastor Jumba was saying. We are already dealing with our own things, that whatever that person does comes to impact me as well. So it's really has nothing to do with them, but the fact that I have to do my own healing before I'm ready to be in a position to help someone else. I think Millie asked the question of like, what examples of hate could we experience as Africans in the workplace? I'll give you an example. I've had to walk into a reception area and a client says, I hope you're not my therapist. And that was based on them looking at me and saying, how can I have a Black therapist?
Yeah.
me of me. That in itself can be received as hate. It can be seen as here you are coming into my space, and at the same time you're also coming and judging me and telling me that what I have to offer is not good enough for you. That actually became a basis of a great relationship where we actually got an opportunity to say, why do you struggle with having someone that looks like me as a therapist? So it becomes a point to say, let's begin your healing by addressing some of the misconceptions that you already have in place. And sometimes we think by people showing us that they are heading themselves means that they are putting it on us. But I recognize that people play out the feelings that they have internally. And what they want is the validation and the recognition that I feel this way. And I'm looking for someone to show me or tell me that it's okay for me to feel the way that I'm feeling. I think Pastor Jumba touched on how parents themselves are helpers. As a parent, you give to your children. You don't really expect so much back, right? But when your child does something, the reality is they probably don't have the language to express what it is that they want. So they do the behavior. They act out the feelings that they're going through so that you can see them, so that you can understand what they're experiencing at that particular moment, rather than actually expressing. So to me, the hate that someone puts or exhibits is a way of them telling me that that's the hate that they're experiencing. And they want to put me in an uncomfortable space so that I understand where they are coming from. And it really comes back to, I recognize that this has nothing to do with me, but it's part of their healing process. And if I have my own healing process to go through, then I go through that as well.
Thank you so much, Noreen. Pastor Jumba, do you want to answer that question? But on top of that question, I'm going to ask you, because Noreen mentioned something very important, which has to do with the color of the skin. So do you think even the color of the skin influences how people are going to treat you? With the same question, but then she mentioned about being black, sitting like into
yes. Yes, thank you, Catherine. Thank you very much, Noreen. Very, very insightful. I will have to agree on so many levels with what Noreen is saying. And yes, to your question, Catherine, I know it's not a rhetorical question, it's a serious question. And I would say from experience, from observation, from many things, from watching what is going on, from my colleagues.
Yes.
Some of you know I work with York Children's Aid Society, so I'm an authorized child protection worker. One of the developments that have come out of the recent events around anti-Black racism is this coming together of all Black child protection workers in Ontario. So we've been having meetings. They've been amazing. They've been unbelievable. But when people share experiences, some of the things that are happening, you would think that in this present day, there's no stuff like that in workplaces, but it's there, it's real. So to your question, does my color, but this works both ways.
Yeah.
Does the color of the person that is knocking or entering my door, will it impact how I progress with them as we build what we call that therapeutic relationship? Yes, it will. And the earlier that I put my assumptions on the table, the better. Because it is delusional for me to think that I am empty. I'm coming into this empty. I have no biases. That is just not true for anyone. So the earlier I check my own assumptions, put them on the table, acknowledge how they might impact how we progress in this therapeutic relationship, the better that I'm going to be an effective therapist. So it is true. To what my sister hinted on, there's such a thing in counseling we call transference or counter-transference.
Yeah.
And this goes even just beyond the color. Somebody shows up there and truly, truly, they remind me of a very negative experience. Maybe they remind me of, oh, God knows, I'm going in many places in terms of examples because I have many. But I just want you to consider somebody walks in and truly, Mr. Buteraba, they really remind you of a very negative experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, if you don't keep your, what we call it, internal tracking, if you don't keep your if you don't keep track of that, you might really handle this person in a way that is not going to be helpful, in a way instead that is going to be harmful. So it is true, the color of our skin, the what these people remind us of. It could be a woman who reminds me of a negative experience I had with a woman. It could be a man who reminds me of my father in a negative way. So if all those things are not taken care of, it could be, I have to pause here and thank my sister Oprah Millie. So if you are here, the previous conversation, a question like this was asked at the very last minute, and it was really an injustice to try to answer it. And I'm glad that the organizers have considered to have a little bit more time to have this conversation. So I take this very sincere moment to thank you, Millie, for raising that, but also to your question, to highlight that it is true in our workplaces. There are many examples where we've been hurt, where we could have interpreted the situation as rejection, as belittling. But the minute this moment becomes all about me, I have done the person I'm trying to help a disservice, because truly this moment is not about me. If I need therapy, I better go to my supervisor. I better go somewhere where I can process these things. But this moment is about this person, including even that statement they have just made about me. That's their burden to carry, not mine. So yes, we can process that. I just love how my sister there said that actually can also potentially be a good lead into a beautiful conversation. But that takes a person who is grounded in acknowledging that this is not about me. I'm here to be to join. We use the word joining, to join this person in their journey. It's not my journey. I have my journey to walk. And I'll be surrounded with people in my life who will help me. But yes, it is true that we ourselves could even have our own projections or counter-transference issues. We can project into the conversation, and then it becomes less productive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eddie Juma. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'm looking at the time. We're already 1 hour in, and I'm going. Newton, do you want to say something about that, or I should ask a totally different question?
You could ask me another question, but I'll come in jotting on different things, because as I was following them, I picked up very many things.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna go straight into it, and this has to do with people who come into our lives acting nicely. You know, when they want something from you or they need help from you, initially they're gonna act so nice towards you. So so the assumption is that if they show their bad side from the start, people may not help them at all. So how does one make the rightful judgment of character to protect their personal spaces? Mr. Newton.
I think that's a great question. And I would like to thank what Pastor Eddie Jumba has labored to put across, and what Noreen has also labored to put across. Usually when I'm in these conversations, I want to sit back, relax, and go to school. I usually call them scholarships, because I learn for free. Human beings, as a survival instinct, we tend to first act nice, then later show true colors. Because if we do not act nice, like you've said, no one is going to open that door. But to me, usually what I do is I look at myself as a man on a mission. If I'm a man on a mission, then I just don't take anything as a coincidence. So what that means is, if someone came into my life, they're either going to be someone I'm already dealing with or someone new. Now, if you come into my life as someone new, I take it upon myself to do what I call a baseline, because me as Newton, I have certain values. Let's say I'm Christian, so I believe in Christ. I value and treasure honesty. I value and treasure authenticity. So those are some, I value and treasure integrity. So if anyone comes into my life and you're a new person and you come into my life, what I really do is I'm going to labor to look out for these values, lest you contaminate the already values I have. Now, when Pastor Juba says we are wounded healers, he is actually meaning that I want to abstract on that to say, when you're hurt, it means your whole entire cup is overflowing with being hurt. So the way you will heal means you'll be talking to other people from your locus will be how you were hurt, how you went through it. So you try to help people from the overflow of how you were hurt. Now, like I told you, I do not want, I want to make very many mistakes on this planet, but I do not want to be repeating mistakes. So if someone comes into my life, the very first thing I do is to create a baseline. I want to know, how are they scoring? Yes, they are nice, but how are they scoring on integrity?
Yeah.
So I can try to test them with money for some time. I usually want to relate with money because money just opens up people magically. You get the idea. As like, if every friend of mine who has borrowed money and they have struggled to repay the money, I already have my baseline and I'm like, yes, they struggle probably with integrity. So I use Matthew 25:14-30. It's the parable of talents. And they're saying, whoever can be entrusted with little, then later we can entrust them with much. So I use that parable of talents and I'm like, okay, if this person is capable of doing this, then I won't be surprised if they do this. But how can you track that? You start with a baseline. When you do a baseline of people who come into your lives, the next thing you do is to look out for deviations. Because remember, human beings are habitual creatures. What do I mean by human beings being habitual creatures? It is so hard to pretend and not fall on the other bad side of you. For example, if you're a smoker, you will come, you will pretend when you see the sign in my house that says no smoking. But after some time, it will bother you and you'll be like, where can I go? Where can I go? Where can I go? Because you are a habitual creature, you must smoke.
Yeah, that's
true. It will bother you that you want to go somewhere and smoke. The people who are abusive in relationships, they start still by being nice. They could buy many flowers. They could take you on very many dates. But one simple thing will bring them out. So you need to be able to track deviations. Having the baseline is he is good, she is good. But how are they deviating when it comes to the different things, the way they are acting? So what I'm calling out people to do is to be on the lookout. When a new person comes into your life, you ought to be on the lookout on different things. That's why you see in the army, when you enter the army, they do not just wake up one day and they say, General Jumba. There is a way they start you by calling you private first class. Then they go on promoting you to a rank. By the time they call you a general, they have seen you through. And it's the same thing with the Catholic Church. There are very many people who have struggled to be priests, and somehow they jump off maybe after the 10th year because a certain habit manifested itself while they were on the journey of priesthood. And I think it must have been Noreen who was alluding to it, that when do you refuel yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring that in here because people who are psychologists, people who are counselors, people who tend to help others, we really tend to struggle when we overdrain ourselves. Remember, when people come to you for help, it means your cup is overflowing and you can help.
Yeah, that's true.
But when you forget to take track of, I've now helped and my cup is at the bottom, I can't help anymore till I refuel myself, it becomes tragic to you, the person who is helping. So I try to look at machines, and I was amazed at how they deal in cars. You see, a car has a battery, and the battery has one role: to start the car. Now, if you use the battery to start a car and also turn on the headlights and play music, you will drain the battery. So what car manufacturers did, they invented a machine called an alternator. Now, the alternator, what it does, it is connected to the battery. And when you start the battery, the alternator also starts itself, and it does like two things. It will take care of business, like you can put on the lights, you can play music, you can do everything on the alternator when the battery is resting. The alternator will also recharge the battery. So how does it come into our profession as people who help others? When Noreen said you need to refuel yourself, it means you need, as a helper, to find things you will do that help you recharge. Some read books. Personally, I follow up stand-up comedians. I follow up. There is a guy called Earthquake. I'm always watching these things to just refuel. So people will come into your life and they will start by being nice, but then in the very end, their true colors will come out. But you won't notice the true colors unless you take it upon yourself to track the colors. Without tracking, you won't know. That's why you see people get hurt later in life and they're like, oh, I didn't know he was a cheat. Oh, I didn't know he was he was abusive. But the signs have been running. When you sit and relax, you're like, hey, when he did this, it meant this. When they did this, they meant this. So I encourage all people in the business of helping others. First of all, to set a baseline. When someone comes into your life, you set a baseline. You want to be able to mark them on the values and then start tracking the deviations. But as a Christian, you are not going to be judgmental, because if you read Galatians 6:2, they're telling us to carry the burdens of our fellow beings. So what that means is you're going to juxtapose Galatians 6:2 of carrying the burdens of our fellow beings with Luke 23:34. Luke 23:34 is when Jesus is being crucified and is telling God that, forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they are doing. Imagine he came, he healed the sick, raised the dead, did all these miracles to help people. In fact, Jesus is the greatest individual we can bring in this topic.
That's true.
He helped people throughout. When they couldn't eat, he fed 5,000. When they couldn't see, he made them see. When they had leprosy, he healed them. He was even on the mission to help them get salvation. But they were like, we have to crucify you. You can't call yourself the king of the Jews. We have to crucify you. But what does he do? He's empathetic. And he says, forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they are doing. So that means the people we are dealing with, if we categorize them as ignorant in their actions, in their perceptions, in their reactions, it saves us a lot of trouble. I think it must have been, the panelists, Jumba and Noreen, have hinted on it when they say, when you look at a child does not know. When you give a child your phone, however expensive, the child will just put the phone in the water, throw the phone in the swimming pool. So they are going to damage you or hurt you regardless. So let's take a baseline of the people who come into our lives. Let's track the deviations according to the values we expect them. We expect from them. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much, Nito. Oh, that was beautiful said. Noreen, do you have anything to add on that?
I'm going to flip it up a little bit.
Yeah.
How do we expect someone to help you if you don't show up nice? Right? I think there's a part where society has set it up where you have to present a certain way in order to get what you want.
Yeah.
So then we play that narrative through. And I agree with Newton all the way. We have to be the ones that take account as to, are they genuinely nice or are they nice for the reason to get what they want, right? So I toy around with this idea. We often say sorry. Do we mean that we're sorry? Or do we mean, excuse me, or I just want your space, I'm taking over right now? What do we actually mean when we say we're sorry? Like, to some extent, we joke and say it's the Canadian thing to say that you're sorry. What are you sorry for? Sorry to me indicates that you're going to change, indicates that you realize the harm that you've done and you want to do better. You are taking accountability of what you have done. But in reality, we say sorry just to soothe that relationship. We say sorry so that we can continue to be, quote unquote, accepted to coexist. But in reality, we're not really sorry. So it's the same thing when it comes to the people that come in from, I am nice to get what I want. If they show up with guns blazing, I'm probably not going to respond the way they think or they expect. So they have to work in that way. And maybe I'm asking us to reframe and understand how we even set up the dynamics of helping. Can you come and ask for help and your niceness doesn't have to be part of it? Can I help you and not understand where you're coming from emotionally? Is that even part of that dynamic? And also there's already a power differential in place. Someone coming and seeking help is at a lower position than the person giving the help, right? So that already changes the dynamic in which we're going to interact. So if someone comes in and asks for help and is demanding, we've been told that's not how you ask for help. Asking for help means you humble thyself. Asking for help is saying, I am in need of you, help me with this. And you're already putting me at a pedestal to say I'm the person to help you. But I'm suggesting that we get rid of that whole dynamic that's in place, that the helping is, Pastor Jumba's put it, it's a joining. It's not one person is on top of the other one or there's one at the bottom. We're joining each other because I'm not going to help you by giving you the fish. I'm teaching you how to fish so that you can help yourself in the long run. So the niceness part has to be reframed and understood in a different way. Because then why do we measure niceness as a prerequisite to receiving help that we need? Why does that even have to be in place? Because there's clients that I don't like personally. I don't have to like them. That's not part of my job. My job is to join them in the journey that they're going through and support them through that. Am I going to see them in public and become friends with them? That's unethical. However, at the same time, I don't have to like them. They don't have to be nice to me. In fact, most of my clients come in angry, not wanting to be there. So that's already a good space to start in. It's starting at like a deficit where we can build up to it. Because when we start with the niceness, we set ourselves up for a lot of failure, and the expectations will never be met because they're not going to continue being nice. They're going to show their true colors. And when they do that, as a helper, I'm now saying you've changed. This is not how you are. But if I understand it as a helper is, whether you're nice or not, I'm going to help you. That's what happens to doctors. Someone comes into the emergency room. They may actually be putting on a KKK full outfit. And even if you are a Black Indian doctor, you're helping them. It doesn't matter what they politically stand for, what they believe in. As the helper, you're merely doing your job to help. So then we take things and make it seem like the person now is not political. But at the same time, it is. Because as a helper, seeing that changes the way I help, right? Pastor Ujuma said this, best said, I'm not a blank slate. I don't just come in and pretend that I am perfect and I'm going to be able to help just about everyone. But we have to recognize that what is my role in this and put aside the other things that play a role but don't have to impact me doing no harm and actually being in the space to help someone.
Thank you so much, Noreen. Thank you so much. Pastor Juma, do you want to answer that question? But like through Noreen, there's something she talked about when people come to talk to you in an umbrella of niceness.
Yeah.
You know, but later on, like the true character comes out. I'm just imagining, like, do you think the society has something to do with how society has tried to mold us, like, you know, to act, like to put on an act, maybe to come into different, like, you know, characters, like the alter ego, you know, comes out just because you want something. So do you think there is part of it to do with the society, that like the system, like how everything is being put in place?
So, thank you, Catherine. Oh boy, so so many so many things are running in my head as I just even listening to this wisdom that Noreen and Teraba and you, Catherine, are sharing. And the questions, I'm actually also looking at the questions in the chat.
Yeah.
There is something in counseling that we call, let me start here, then I'll go to the other side of the coin. So there's something in counseling we call empathetic confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's this whole idea of me catching the contradictions in how our relationship is progressing. It's very easy to catch, actually. It's very easy to catch the contradictions in what the person is saying and what they're presenting, like even within that moment of therapist and client relationship. Now, a good therapist should be able to bring that out, because it is highly likely that this pretense that you're seeing here is not only existing in this relationship of client and therapist. It is possible that this pretense, or whatever word we want to call it, nicety, whatever we want to call it, it is present in other environments or in other dynamics where this person is. So it is important to bring it out, to catch it, and maybe it will also be a good conversation starter, as opposed to sitting on it and then you, as a therapist or a helper, you go on and you're upset and you're boiling inside. You're really not helping the person that you're trying to help if you don't bring these things up. So if you catch somebody is not being sincere, so one of the ethical principles is, I think it's the last one, number 5, is fidelity. And it's the whole idea of being honest with each other in the session, honest with the person that you're counseling, honest with the person you're trying to help. And anything less than honesty is not helpful to the person that you're attempting to help.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Eddie. Moving on to the next question. Let me see. All right, Mr. Newton, I'm gonna start with you. You, Mike. All right, helping others means that you have the means and tools to solve the existing needs. To whom does one run when they hurt during, sorry, to whom does one run when they are hurt during the course of duty?
You are talking about now the helper?
Yeah, because like you give the help, you have the means, you have the tools to help, because when people come to you, well, especially for you into financial advising, that comes with counseling, right? You have the means to tell somebody what to do with their money, like how to invest it, what to play with it. So, but like when you have issues and problems, like when you get hurt into the process of helping and giving advice to other people, who do you run to?
I think it comes and somehow feeds into it comes and feeds into the analogy I was using with the alternator and the battery, because what I realize is on the journey of helping others, we start off by also being young students, which means we have mentors, and these mentors, we approach them to ask them about the different challenges we meet on the journey. So I realized that personally, I have a business mentor, and I also have someone I talk to with when it comes to life events, who happens to be my dad. And when I'm with him, I'm in that free space where I can say anything and ask him about anything. I think it's incumbent upon us who have placed ourselves in a position to help others to also realize that we need help. And when we realize that we need help, it's incumbent upon us to seek for that particular help from people whom we can identify as being able to see us without judging us. Because usually when you stand out to be this good counselor, financial counselor, as in everyone will look at you like, you do not need financial help, or you do not need this. So I'm looking at Noreen, and she's a psychologist. And I mean, if she were to go to be counseled, they'll be like, hey, I mean, how can a doctor come for medication? But it must come from a point of humility, that when you understand self, then you have to lower yourself down and be able to realize that now, me as Newton, I did not score well on this. If I did not score well on this, probably I have to focus on my mentor to seek the help. So I usually seek help from my mentor. I also realize that the people whom we help, actually, they also have certain things they can teach us. They are not fully, as in full circle, to be helped by us, and they cannot help us. So we do not have, it's not a must that we have to be friends with the people we help. But as we keep on sharing with these people, we open our antennas to new learnings. And these learnings could open more doors for sharing. And I think it's okay to undergo that level of humility when we ask questions, when we also ask help. So to answer your question, I can say, where can we go for help? We could go to mentors, or we could also seek professional advice. The idea is we will lose self. We will lose self. We will lose self the moment we think we know it all. The moment we think we do not need help. So I look at myself, I think it must have been Sir Isaac Newton who gave a quote that when he sees himself as a person who got his greatness by standing on the shoulders of giants. Okay. So as people who help others, we also need to be on the lookout for the champions, the giants in our endeavors, such that we can go to them and seek this kind of help anytime we feel like we are bothered and we are stressed in anything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nita. Pastor Eddie. Pastor Eddie, please, your mic.
Yes, Catherine.
Yeah, Pastor Eddie, you seem to be, you don't seem to be, you are the fixer. You fix it.
Far from that word, am I? Far from it, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, you are. You fix a lot of things, you know? And I would like to know who fixes you? Like, you know? Yeah, you're a pastor, you're a psychotherapist, you're into like helping the kids. Yes. So when things go wrong in your life, your heart, look, you're disappointed, you're stressed, who do you run to?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Kathy. That's a beautiful question. I'm going to answer it by this scripture in 2 Corinthians chapter 1. So I had the uncommon opportunity of doing my master's at a Christian university. So one of the reasons I call it an uncommon opportunity, I could have gone to, actually I did portion of my program at U of T. So I was gonna say I could have gone to U of T. So I kind of did. So I'm kind of an alumni actually of U of T. I did my psycho-spiritual assessment. I did it there at Knox. But because I had this privilege and opportunity of attending a Christian university, so what happened was, as much as they were equipping me to be a psychotherapist with all the psychology that I need, they were also almost 50% balanced, equipping me to be able to do spiritual care. That's why I did my clinical placement in a hospital as a chaplain, something that really significantly impacted my life, staying in a hospital for that time. But where do I go? So this is what they told us at the university as what they called it was the counselor's prayer. The counselor's prayer. So Mr. Buchadaba, I see your writing. So it is in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, and the verse is 3 and 4. Can you read it, Catherine? It's in the chat. I just hit send. Are you able to read it?
Let me go in the chat right now. It's the one just right at the bottom, right?
Yes, yep.
Yeah. The God of all comfort, blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort of ourselves have received from God.
Man, so this was imparted so deep somewhere in my spirit as the counselor's prayer, to acknowledge this one thing, that you're going to have moments where you need to be comforted. You could be the most composed counselor. You could be the most composed psychologist, such as Noreen. Moments, and those moments are many, are going to come when you definitely need some comforting. So that's the first place I go to ask. Actually, as I sit in the room, regardless of whether the person is a Christian or not, now this is just me preparing myself. Actually, they told us that if you don't prepare, you have prepared to fail. If you're coming into a session with a person and you don't prepare, you have prepared to fail.
That's true.
So as my preparation, I pray. I actually consider that, as I go into this, I don't need to go just by myself. So I pray on every session that I'm going into. acknowledging that even during the session itself, I myself am going to be needing to be comforted along the way. But should an incident happen during the session, somebody throws a stone at you, that image of the stone that I like to use a few times here when we talk. Yes, I may do a little bit of processing of whatever the thing is. If somebody is outrightly hurtful to me, by God's grace, I at least have been able in the past to try to see what's behind that. I notice how much you really went out of your way to be hurtful in that statement. What's behind that? What's behind that? And sometimes people break down when they notice that you're catching on to these things and you're not reacting in a way maybe they were expecting to react. Sometimes they break down even the more. But even if I'm not able to process that, I be sure to get somebody to process this with. So that could be, so in my role as a pastor, I have a pastor of pastors. So now you think I have a hard job. That's a hard job. That's a hard job. So all he does is actually to attend to pastors. That's his job. He works with the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada. That is who we're affiliated with. But I also have Pastor Robert. Some of you know him. He's the founding pastor of the church that I attend. I have my wife. I do regulate. I use what's the word? Not discernment. Judgment. I weigh what I share with, how much I share with her and how much I don't. But I do have the blessing of people around me that I consider safe to speak about some things, not all things. The unfortunate nature of my job is that a lot of things that we do are really guarded by confidentiality, so we don't really talk details. So the counselors have, the client enjoys client's confidentiality. The therapist does not. So if I share with you stuff in the counseling session, Catherine,
yes,
I have no way of telling you that don't share what I've told you. So that's why we have to judge how much we disclose. But whatever you share with me, I cannot allow myself to disclose that. It's a very dear thing to me. So answer a short answer, a long answer, I guess, to a short question. Where do I go to? I have, by God's grace, continued this process of surrounding myself with safe people. And I'm not safe in just as an English word, but safe more in an emotional way, that if I have something that is heavy that I need to process, yes, first of all, in my prayer, it's amazing things people say in prayer. There's so much safety and openness if you were to hear people's prayers. And I know that's a safe place for me as well when I have things to process. But this is a perfect point to put the thing I shared with you on the screen, that document.
Henry, can you please share that?
Or do I have rights to share?
Yes, I think you should. Henry.
I should be able to? Okay. Yeah, if I have sharing rights, it's a very quick thing that I want to share. I feel absolutely that this is the perfect moment to do that. So I'm going to do that.
So do you see the share option there?
Yes, let me do just that. Share, I see a green here, share, and I'm gonna share that. Okay, so are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, we do.
Except I don't know how to make it big.
We can see it.
You can see it?
Yeah. Do you see it, everyone? Yeah, I think, we can see it.
There. Is that better? Okay, perfect. Okay, this is this is something I keep at my desk, right in front of my desk. It's something we learned in the ethics class. It's something to really help us to balance whatever messed up ideas we might have coming into this work of helping. So it says the most stressful, irrational beliefs a caring professional can ever have. Number one, so mark the word, these are irrational beliefs. If you're a helper and you're thinking yourself in this way, you need help. You need to go see Noreen. Number one, I should always work at my peak level of enthusiasm and competence. To think that of yourself That is very irrational. That always, Monday to Friday, you're going to be at your peak as a helper. You are irrational. Number 2, I should be able to cope with any client emergency that arises. So your client calls you at 2 a.m. and you're supposed to respond in a very effective way, Monday to Friday. No. Number 3, I should be able to help every client. That is irrational. That is irrational. We have to acknowledge that some clients are going to, or some people, maybe we could even slow down on the word client, because I wanted to emphasize that what we are talking about is helpers. Those could be parents, those could be community members. We live in a time, in a land where people come to Canada for the first time. They barely have no one. I was in that place at some point. I have people even here on the forum who helped me. So people come here and they need help, for real. So the people who help them here, for me, I think of them as helpers. We have so many categories of helpers. Pastors, can't forget to mention that. What's the number 4? We're going to do this super quick. Number 4 was, when a client does not make progress, it is my fault. That's too much a burden to carry.
Yeah.
Number 5, I should not take off time from work when I know that a particular client needs me. Yeah, I've been guilty of this a few times, but I'm aware that it's very irrational, and I try not to think that I should be able to attend to everything. Number 6, my job is my life. Doesn't matter how much you love your job. If you're thinking that your job is your life, pause right there. Number 7, I should be able to work with every client. Some people are outright, maybe they need a different kind of helper. And that's also a skill, to be able to know that, you know what? I know somebody called Noreen. Since you've trusted me and you've come to me, I hope you trust that I'm recommending this person who will be more suited to really work with you through this. That's something that we should be able to acknowledge sometimes. I should be a model of mental health. See, what did you call me? It's one thing, Catherine, to call you a fixer. But if I called myself a fixer, we have a big problem. Number 10, a client's needs always come before my own. Number 11, I am the most important person in my client's life. No, you are not. In fact, you should do a lot to make sure that this person has and develops people around them, minus you, because you're going to be you're joining them for a little while in their journey, and they're going to keep going. So for the time you're with them, if you handle things in such a way that makes them rely on you only, you have truly not helped them in the actual word or in the actual sense of helping. So my work with Children's Aid Society, I think 99% of the work we do is to build a safety network around this family so that they can continue to function, raise their children without necessarily depending on external supports such as CAS or the police or, God forbid, the jail system and all those other supports. So to build a safety network that excludes you. You will have done more for the family than you think. Number 12, I am responsible for my client's behavior. Too much burden to carry. I have the power to control my client's life. No, you don't. No, you do not, no matter how much you want. So to answer that $1 million question, where do I go to? So I go to reminding myself of things like this, and I also turn to the safety network that by God's grace I have been blessed to have around me. And I encourage all of us to not give up on building safety networks around us and to discard this very, very unhealthy message that, oh, you don't need the community, or you don't need people. That is not true anywhere. It is not true anywhere. But also to acknowledge that by the time you make that statement, it is highly likely that it's coming from a place of heart that you really need to attend to. Because you're not stupid. You know that people need people. But if you're the messenger or the preacher of this message that, oh, don't go to the community, you don't need the community, you know that you don't even believe in what you're saying. but yet you're saying it. So you're hurting the person more than you're helping them. So maybe go attend to wherever that statement is coming from.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pastor Eddie. And Noreen, the psychologist. I know like you're the kind of profession like you're holding, you carry on a daily basis. It's such a powerful profession. Like, you know, you read people's mind, you go and try to fix their problems. Like we know, yes, I'm gonna call you a fixer too, because you know what, people come to you because you're gonna fix them, right? And they have expectations. And for yourself, when you're burned out, you know, working so hard, like, you know, maybe you have a client, they don't seem like, you know, to respond to your diagnosis and stuff like that. So you take it on, you know, you take it, everything inside you, and, you know, it comes back to hurt you. So how do you come over that, and who do you go talk to? Like, I think it's the same question, like it's exactly the same question, but like I was just trying to mold it in a different way. So who do you go to?
Well, I don't think I'm going to say anything that hasn't been said.
Yeah, it's just in a few minutes, just maybe 1-2 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, I'll simply echo what has been said. Psychologists have psychologists too. Yes. And I think we start to build that tree up to recognize that we're not alone in the experiences that we're going through. And I like what Pastor Eddie said. We have to build a network around ourselves. And in that, I'm also going to add this. We go to the people that we're comfortable with as well. So those are the people that we can let ourselves be vulnerable with, which is what Newton was highlighting, that in seeking that help as a helper yourself, you've basically said, I am willing to let go of all of these ideas that I have about myself and put myself in a space where I'm vulnerable. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to reflect on myself. That doesn't take away from you being a professional. That doesn't take away from you being able to help someone else, because your ability to help someone doesn't mean you're going to help everyone. It just means you can make a dent in someone else's life. So I go to my supervisor that I talk to, but also I'm going to highlight the network of other professionals that I work with that are in the same field, whether it is going in to say, I'm looking at this way. I'm conceptualizing this way. Would you look at it the same way? What am I missing? Because I think when you go through the 12 things that Pastor Eddie shared with us, and you recognize that when you begin to say, I'm the only one that can help, you've missed the point. Because even Christ himself doesn't say he's the only one that can help. He helps you when you're already helping yourself. There's a lot of things that you put in place to get all the help that you need. So even as a helper, you don't lose your sense of who you are by asking for help. And maybe this is to bring back the movie and tie everything together. We put certain titles on a pedestal. We go to doctors to expect advice. We go to doctors to expect the answer. But truly, they're human. And what they do is they understand your symptoms. And they conceptualize, based on what you've told me, this is what I think it might be. It's not based on the 24 hours that I've been in your body, have I experienced the symptoms? Do I know what you're experiencing, right? And that's the part where doctors are there to assist, but they're not there to do the whole job. And expecting someone to work 24 hours is taking away from the individual. But also, when as a helper, you are the all and end all for the client or the patient that you have, you've done the opposite of what you're supposed to do. I trust myself in the ability to work myself out of a job. So when a client comes and says, I don't want to come back to therapy, I'm excited for them. I'm glad that they've gotten to that point, because as a helper, I need to be able to let go of you as much as I let go of my title of being the helper. And that's where I get the help from the other people in my life. She's great with couples, Estelle Perel. So her work is on, we as helpers participate, show up at 100% for our clients. But the people that we care for, the people that we love, are the ones that get the back end of it because we're experiencing burnout. We don't show up and be as excited when we get home the same way that we were excited in the office for the clients. So I think it goes back to that idea that we're toying on the performance that we put on. The clients put a performance to get the help. We put a performance in return to be the helpers. And being a helper then comes to say, I'm only just a helper, which in itself is not helpful to anyone. It's not helpful to you. It's not helpful to the people that are receiving the help. So if you see yourself as someone that joins people in their journey, as someone that is sitting with them and creating space, you allow yourself to also go and ask for help. As Pastor Eddie said, go to your supervisor, talk to the people that are in your life, adhering confidentiality, of course, but also look into other higher powers of understanding. I often say when I get overwhelmed by recognizing that I cannot control my clients, and sometimes I even struggle to control myself, I go into something that I can control, which is I know how to measure how to bake a cake. I do the measurements just to ground me back into the space of I cannot control everything, but in the midst of the storm, I can ground myself. I can find myself things that give me that sense of control that doesn't become reflected in wanting to control other people or other things beyond me. So seek help even as a helper, and it doesn't take away from you. And we are part of the village. We're part of the tribe. Within the tribe, I've never seen the chief say, I'm making a decision. He holds a meeting and says, tell me what's going on. Give me your different perspectives. And based on that, do I understand? And that's what we need to do as helpers, is to understand that how you are understanding the situation may not be the full picture. There's other people that also have a different view of it. That's why it makes sense to work within an interdisciplinary team, but it also makes sense to take a biopsychosocial approach to understanding. So you understand the biology, you understand the social aspect, you also understand the psychosocial that's playing a role in how you are presenting, but also how you're interacting, not only as a helper, but also as someone that's seeking the help. And I'll leave it at that so that I don't take up too much time.
Thank you so much, Noreen. Oh my goodness, you have done this question justice. And we are running out of time. It's already 2 p.m. And I think, I don't know what time Henry gave you guys, like until 2 p.m., right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so we're gonna wrap up, and I'm gonna thank you so much for doing this with us. Thank you so much for always turning up for these conversations. We really need these conversations. They are very important to us. And I wanna thank Millie, Oprah. Last week, she really had this question. It was a very, she had a concerning question about this topic. So it's the reason why we had to dig into this problem and talk about it this week. And I'm gonna ask you, our panelists, like to say your last words because we are already at 2 p.m. So we don't wanna like catch you here. Maybe you have so many other commitments out there. So please, Mr. Newton, your last word, please. Your mic, please.
Thank you, Kate. I would like to thank all the panelists. What Noreen highlighted reminded me of the definition they give consultants. They define consultants as someone who tells you that you give me your watch and I read for you your time. So it means as helpers, we are going to always be there, wait and listen to what the kind of watches these guys who come to us give us, then we read the watch and tell them the time. So that way it means I've been admiring lawyers, how lawyers take on cases. I mean, a lawyer comes and he takes on a case of a pedophile, a murderer. Okay, a person we see as a murderer, a person we see as a pedophile, but the lawyer. But when the person loses the case, the lawyer still gets paid, and no one calls a lawyer a murderer elsewhere in their circles. So I think as counselors, we need to bring that level of professionalism where we take on cases from our clients, but then draw that line whereby, like Noreen said, if you're not supposed to like them, you're not supposed to even be friends. If the friendship turns out, it's a plus. If it doesn't, it should be okay. You're there to help. And when they say they no longer want the counsel, then it means you're winning. I handle very many people who come to my office and probably they're stuck with debt. And I've been through debt myself. I struggled with debt till I overcame it. So when I help them and they tell me, I'm through with this thing, I'm really excited and enchanted. So I think we are doing a good job. We as the people who front ourselves to help others, we need God's guidance. We need to seek the counsel of higher powers, like Norina said. We need to put ourselves and seek God, like Pastor Jumba has already said. We need to seek God. We need to practice humility. And I know with that, I mean, we will always be at the forefront, making other people better. Thank you very much, Kate.
Thank you so much, Newton. Pastor Eddie, your last remarks, please.
Thank you, Catherine. I don't know if the people are on the thing are going to get a chance to ask questions, but if they don't, just one question that is in the chat as a way of my last comment. A question around policy and how some of these things can be handled at work or censored or mediated. These are it's not a good news comment that I'm going to make. So some things cannot be legislated. For example, character. So if we have things in our relational environment, and people are outrightly demonstrating lack of character or being low on character, some of those things cannot be legislated even by the most strict employer. So I cannot encourage all of us enough as a community, as Black Africans, as members of the same, who share the same challenges, to really, really seek to build character. Not even so much performance, but character, to build character. It's going to benefit not just you, but also the people that relate with you. And those people are many, especially if you're in a helping professional, if you are in any kind of helping role, whether you're a parent, you're a community leader, everybody is in some kind of helping role. Guard and do whatever effort you need to put in to build character. And that at the end of the day, you will be okay with whatever will be said on your grave, so that your pastor doesn't have to really stretch it so much if they have to find something character of a good character to say about you as we lay you down. So again, I thank you all. And I shout out to I saw my Pastor Rose, she's watching from Uganda. I don't know if Pastor Robert is watching. I thank all of you who are watching, and I pray that this moment is definitely not a waste of your time. Thank you very much, Noreen, and thank you very much, Newton. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Pastor. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Pastor Eddie. We appreciate your presence. And your last remarks, Noreen.
I guess when I was asked to be part of this panelist, first I was like, this is a big topic, one that definitely needed the time that we gave it today, but also an understanding that the role of a helper has a lot of sacrifice. And sometimes we forget that the people that we're going to seek help from are still human and they're individuals as well. And this is not to limit what we ask for, but rather to recognize that as a helper, it is okay for you to be authentic, to be vulnerable. And as Pastor Eddie said, you have to be honest with yourself. How much can I actually do? Do I need to do this? And who else can do a better job than me without it having to take away from who you are? In fact, facilitating healthy, great relationships for other people could be part of your role as a helper. Helping doesn't necessarily mean you do the work. Helping could be you in the background. It could be you seeing a resource and sharing. It could be you saying, this is someone I know that does a great job, and putting that connection into place. And I think as helpers, we need to continue to fuel our own cups before we help others, but also recognize that it is okay for us not to always have the hat of the helper. Because as we have seen, we also come with our own things, but in relation with other people, we also get to either heal or hurt them as well. Because there's no one that has ever said, oh, every relationship I've had is excellent. Most likely in those relationships, that's where the rupture took place. And when the rupture takes place, it takes another relationship to put them back into place, to heal them, but also to reframe them. And that's the same work that we're doing as helpers in the background, to reframe our own understanding of what our roles are, reflect on them, so then when we get into ourselves as helpers, we're not just coming in to tick a box, we're coming in to truly be present for the people that we're with, and also recognize that our help may not always be received as help. Sometimes someone may see the work that you're doing as actually working against them. We've talked about how people come into our offices for different reasons. Some people come in because there's been a disruption, there's been abuse, there's children, family services. But in that, to continue in the work that we're doing, as the scripture has been quoted, it highlights the fact that even though you see your work as not being work, your work is actually work. And to continue in the roles that we're taking on, because not only do we have a duty to do no harm, but also we have a duty to ourselves not to do any harm to ourselves and the people that we love the most. So thank you for letting me be part of this. It was a great conversation, and I'm saying thank you to the people that organized, but also to everyone else that took the time to listen in. And I hope it was as fruitful as it was for everyone else that's here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Noreen. We appreciate your presence. And I'll say something about this whole conversation. As a previous addiction and mental health counselor, I'm learning a lot from this. I'm still continuing my studies at the University of Toronto into mental health. And believe me, like, this conversation is so powerful, has been really educative towards me. I know for me, for sure, I know, and so many people, they'll be learning from this conversation. And we really appreciate the time you take to go and help people out there in all your different capacities and, in different professions. We really do appreciate. And over that, like, you take the time to come and bless us with your knowledge, your information on this platform of African Alumni Association. We do appreciate that. Mr. Newton, I know it's quite late in Uganda, and we really appreciate that you always tune in, you always come to, whenever we call on to you to come and speak to our audience. Your knowledge is valued, and we really appreciate. Pastor Eddie, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We look up to you. You're my mentor, you're my pastor. I look up to you, and believe me, like, each time like you come to speak to us, it's always a blessing. And for Henry, I don't see you. Please, can you show your face? I don't know whether you're there. I don't know what happened. But anyways, Henry, thank you so much for working with me on a daily basis, coming up with these conversations, looking for the panelists, and the work you do. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. The community needs you more every single week. So having said that, I also thank you, by the way, to Millie, Oprah, Millie. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You inspired us to come up with the conversation of this week. With your last question last week, it really made us come up with this conversation for this week, because you showed a lot of concern, because the type of work you do, you interact with people on a daily basis, and you put yourself out there, you go into the community, you help up people in different categories, and you had a concern about your job and how you're being treated and how you're supposed to look for help. So thank you so much for always being part of this conversation. We appreciate. And Jackie, I know you're there. Jackie, please. Yeah, Jackie. Jackie, thank you so much as well. I appreciate you. You're, my God. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're keeping us going all the time. Barbara, thank you so much for always tuning in. We appreciate. Ruth, thank you so much for being here. And everybody watching on Facebook, we appreciate. And I want to say something quick. If you want to know so much about this conversation about mental health and all different topics, you can always go to our African Alumni Association page. It has different videos from the last 3 months. We've been having this conversation about mental health. So you can always go back and stream and watch the videos. They have really important message up there. And one last thing I want to say is we have these amazing masks. They come in blue and white. Since you know it's a COVID season, but not only COVID season, I think these masks, they work for all the virus out there. Yeah, I haven't been sick for a long time. I don't think it's only COVID. Even these normal colds and flu, these masks can help you. And not
How
only
much are they?
$12. And they're reusable, they're so nice. They have our African Alumni Association, the logo is on it. It's another way of advertising us, putting the word out there. So please, you can buy, contact me directly, or you can always go to African Alumni Association page. Our emails up there, so you can always contact me or Henry, or go to our page and buy. We have lots of them in 2 different colors. So having said that, thank you so much, everybody. So I think we're gonna call it a day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And some of you, if you want to stay behind and have a chit chat, it's okay.
No, I just noticed 66 people from Dominion Church were watching. They tuned in when we shared it. So I just want to extend thanks to them. And I trust that they have learned something. So thank you.
That's so beautiful. We appreciate that. We appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Henry. Mr. Henry. Okay, he has to stop the live on Facebook, but I don't know how to do this. I just don't know. Henry. Hello.
You may have to call him.
There is that saying that if the mountain won't come to Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad will go to the mountain. If Henry can't stop the chat, at least we can exit. All right, guys, thank you very much. May God bless you. Bye-bye.
God bless you. Bye.
It was lovely to meet everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right.
Hello.
Henry, where are you? We're trying to call you. Hmm?
He's not even muted.
Huh?
He's not even muted.
Yeah?
Huh?
Okay, all right. Bye.
What?
We finished. Bye. Hi. Oh, now
my
this. I have to stop this. Jackie?
Hey, what's up?
So I'll see you on the other side.
On the other side?
Yeah, the other side, like phone, Facebook. Oh, yeah.
No, whatever. All right. Sounds good.
All right. Bye.